Okay. We are live here with Naturally San Diego. Good morning, San Diego. Hope everybody is staying safe. This is Ron Burgundy. No, it's not. My name is Matt Clifford, and I am on the board of Naturally San Diego here, the co-founder of Barnana. Really fired up for today. We have, I think, what is a highly relevant panel. If we're all keeping our ears on what's happening, we have a handful of leaders in DTC that are doing a phenomenal job, and I'm excited to dive into it. For those that are new to this group or Naturally San Diego, a little backstory. We're a board of around 16 people that have come together in the natural foods community to really cultivate what we have here. I mean, we have an amazing group of brands that are both big and small and emerging that are doing a lot of good work in San Diego. And we want to be the resource for them to just scale more effectively. We are part of the Naturally Network community, which there's Boulder, Bay Area, Austin, and Chicago. So shout out to them. They're also doing a lot of great work. We cannot wait to have an in-person meeting. I just found out that Disneyland, Florida is opening up in July. So I think that we are on the cusp here to actually having a real in-person live event. And all of us are eager about that. We're looking forward to it. If you're interested in learning more about Naturally San Diego, follow us on LinkedIn or Instagram, shoot us an email. And we will send all these out via email, so you can have this recording and you can listen to it when you're free. In San Diego, we got some great brands that are sponsors of Naturally San Diego. Real big shout out to Dr. Bronner's, Suja, Chosen Foods, Kashi, Stage One Financial, Perfect Snacks, Marshall McClellan, and last but not least, really important, Red Door Interactive, who we have Reid, Carr, the founder and CEO, being the appropriate person to moderate a D2C panel. So hats off to Reid, and looking forward to him introducing everybody and really having a really good conversation. So without further ado, Reid, I will pass it off to you, and you take it off.
All right, here we go. All right, everyone. Really glad to be here and excited to talk about this important topic right now. Obviously, with the recent events, direct-to-consumer has been incredibly important. So through this conversation, we're here to talk about the direct-to-consumer experience, e-commerce, retail, that whole landscape from three fantastic brands that I'm sure everyone can relate to. Certainly seen them on shelf, but certainly can relate to the challenges that they face. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. I'm sure everyone hasn't gotten everything right all the time. And I think that's some of the most powerful lessons that we can learn are coming from that as well. So with that, again, I'm Reid Carr. I'm the CEO of Red Door Interactive. We are a marketing transformation agency here in San Diego. We have clients like ASICS and Titleist. Probably most importantly, as mentioned earlier, Chosen Foods, who got us involved in Naturally. So shout out to Natalie Morse, the VP Marketing over there. So excited to talk to this group. I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves, their brand, and also to kind of set the stage. What I want to start off with, and Mike, I'm going to kick this over to you first, is just give us a sense of, how big the company is and how you've kind of structured things as it relates to DTC. Because where we started this whole conversation when we kind of set the panelists for this was this move toward, do you put someone in charge of DTC? Is it a different department than marketing, whatever that may be? So if you talk a little bit about how you're structured to kind of get everyone this lay of the landscape, that would be fantastic. For people who are listening in, welcome to type in some questions into the chat. We'll be monitoring that as well, and we will go from there. So with that, Mike, why don't you start us off with your intro?
Hey guys, yeah, I'm Mike. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Liquid Death. We put water in tall boy cans that look like beer and do really fun marketing. Yeah, in terms of how we're set up for D2C, we pretty much do everything in-house. We have, someone that runs all of our kind of paid social, which is 99.9% of the way that we advertise right now is through paid social. I think people who are just getting into D2C now are realizing how amazing it really is. If you're not familiar, the fact that you can target the exact person that buys your brand everywhere in the country, instead of just hoping that person wanders by the shelf in a store. So for us, for example, we can target every single person in the US who likes Metallica, because we know there's probably a good chance they're going to buy a can of water with a skull on it without even reading anything else further. So it's like, if you look at just people who like alternative music, metal, punk rock, skateboarding, horror movies in the US, we've got an audience of 80 million people we can basically advertise to try to buy our product. So we've gotten as smart as we can get about what types of groups we target. And obviously, like, some groups are more expensive to target than others. So you can kind of find efficiencies where it's like, oh, a bunch of other companies aren't trying to talk to these guys, so Facebook charges you way less to market to them than a really sought after audience of people. So I think we're just constantly learning and experimenting with all different kinds of audiences. And it's basically done by one person that we have in-house. And, we've experimented with using outside agencies to help us with things that get really complex, like Amazon advertising, because it's all keyword driven, and it's like Matrix to me. Like, I have no idea how any of that stuff works. So we've worked with agencies, and sometimes it makes sense depending on what their cost is and contract is, but we've now brought that in-house as well. And we don't go too heavy with it. It's just kind of like the bare minimum of what we need to just kind of keep stuff churning there. And then we use Amazon for all of our fulfillment, which is a common thing, because if you have a website, you can have Amazon fulfill all the orders from your website. It doesn't just have to be on Amazon. It's called Amazon MCF, probably something that if you don't know about, you should know about, especially in the beverage space. There's really nobody who can compete with Amazon's shipping costs for like a 14-pound case of beverage. Unless you're selling something that's like a 12-pack of a crazy beverage that you're charging $60 for. If you're selling something cheap and heavy, we don't really even know of any other 3PLs that can come close to competing with them. So I think for us, like, that's our main components, is find your awesome fulfillment partner that's got the pricing you need, have someone that runs all the paid advertising for you. And that's 98% of it for us, really.
Cool. Thanks, Mike. David, why don't you do a little intro and talk about your company's structure as it relates to DTC?
Yeah, hey guys, my name's David. I'm one of the co-founders at Olipop. We make sparkling digestive tonics that act as kind of replacement for sodas and support digestive health. We're probably the example here of one of the newer comers to D2C. We really weren't doing very much at all back in February, and have ramped up pretty quick. So, I think that our total February sales we did in the first couple of days of this month. So, we've had to pivot our team pretty quick into that. We sort of pieced it all together. We've switched around the focus of some of our marketing team, leaned on some external agencies as well. And as Mike was saying, it's kind of incredible right now how quickly you can ramp that up, and that there is a real opportunity at this moment in time for D2C growth, I think.
All right, TJ, why don't you go ahead and give us the intro?
Yeah, so I'm TJ Ferrara. I kind of have a unique background compared to everybody else in the panel. I've been aside from Reid, maybe, I've been in e-commerce for 20 years, pure play. I was consulting for Fortune 10 brands, ran my own consulting agency after the Fortune 10 stuff, around the block and back, my own brands out of the garage, my own fulfillment out of the garage type stuff, Amazon doing, a couple million a month. But where rubber met the road, and why I'm here on this panel, obviously, is because of Bubs Naturals, which is a company I founded with my business partner, Sean Lake. We do collagen and MCT. We're in the health and supplement space. That being said, I do all my own ads. I do all the digital for the company just because of the unique background. I'm 50-50 on whether or not you should hire an agency or not. For me, an agency means buying me time. It allows me to work on the business, not necessarily in the business, which has been the better path of 3 years for me, is in the business. So it just really depends. You know, obviously we can go in 20 different directions, but I'll kind of let the audience dictate where we go with that. If you guys have specific questions, fire them in, and I'll do my best to answer whatever.
Yeah, and we already, as a reminder, just said that we got a first question in here, but I'll come back to that because it is related to the agency side of things. But the first one I want to get also in terms of kind of setting some context for all of this is, you know, people are curious about what percentage of sales is represented by your site, by retail, by Amazon, some of those. Maybe, TJ, while we have you most recently talking, would you mind kind of giving us that categorization for you? And then we'll move through to David and then Mike to help us level set from there as well.
Yeah, for sure. Again, incredibly unique scenario. We decided to go direct to consumer right out of the gate and negate all of grocery. Predominantly just because that was my background, and neither Sean nor I knew the grocery space really well, and we didn't want to deal with the UNFIs and the Keyhays and everything else. It was just way confusing. So we just decided to go DTC. So our breakdown currently is about, I would say 50% on our site, 40% Amazon, 10% grocery, and it's predominantly boutique type stuff. We're looking at opening some major grocery stores soon here. We have 170 some odd store chain on the East Coast called Market Basket, but that's kind of the major that we're dealing with right now. And then locally in San Diego, it's Barron's and Seaside Market and stuff like that. So shout out to Seaside if you want some Bubs.
Nice. David, will you tell us about your composition, please?
So yeah, we do all of our business direct off our site. We are in a slightly unique position in that we require cold storage, which kind of complicates things for Amazon a little bit. You know, our focus has been on sort of the data capture. I think we never really saw ourselves as a D2C first business, you know, with the nature of our product, you know, in beverage there. But, you know, it's been a fascinating way for us to get to consumers all over the country. You know, we're only 18 months into launch. So, you know, our sort of retail distribution that tends to go a lot slower is, you know, it's just started to expand out onto the East Coast, but through direct to consumer, we've been able to get to people all over the country. You know, going direct off our own site, we've got access to all that data, and we're starting to mine those insights. And we've also recently launched our own wholesale site as well, which has been fascinating. We just kind of put a dedicated site live at the beginning of the month, and, you know, without any advertising or anything, we're getting, you know, 10 or so inbound queries to that a day, and ending up in, you know, shipping to, you know, an outdoor theater up in Maine and coffee shops in Florida. So yeah, that's been the focus for us so far. I think we will go live with Amazon sometime in the next couple of months, but for now, you know, zero goes through Amazon.
You kind of pause on that before I get over to Mike on David, just the decision to switching over to Amazon. I think for a lot of people, they see that as clear, like they definitely have to do it. There are some people who absolutely don't want to do it because of the kind of evil empire that it may be. And then I'd say there's some people down the middle of that, which is kind of the necessary evil, but an evil nonetheless. What was your decision-making process on heading toward Amazon? Because we talked about, Mike's talking about using them from shipping and standpoint, but this is the sales channel.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about e-commerce for me is, you know, the retail's pretty straightforward in terms of you've only got so many strategic options and how it can fulfill, but you can look at e-commerce to fulfill very different gaps in your strategy. So I think it really just depends how you look at it. Like when we did our last round of funding, we didn't actually put e-commerce in the P&L because we didn't want to put the pressure on ourselves to have to hit a revenue target and perhaps, be forced into, because if you want, a lot of sales, there's only really one way to do that, quickly, and that's through Amazon. For us, strategically, the importance was the data capture, direct access to consumers. So that's where we've kind of disciplined ourselves to sort of stick. But as I say, it really just comes down to kind of, where e-commerce sits within your business strategy.
Okay. So then, Mike, why don't we talk about your composition?
Yeah. I mean, without getting like too much in the actual kind of sales details, I mean, we started off as a D2C in January of last year. So it's been a little over a year. We were only D2C for most of last year. We really only started significantly moving into retail probably starting in October, November of last year. And then everything started happening really quickly for us. We just launched national and Whole Foods out of the gate. And, as you can imagine, a brand like Liquid Death, everybody was nervous at first, right? Like when we talked to buyers of different places last year, they're like, oh, I don't know. It says death on the can. I don't know if we can put it on the shelf. I don't want people picketing in the parking lot. And then the minute Whole Foods took it national, now everyone's like, oh yeah, we want this. We want this. Yeah, if Whole Foods has it, fine. Yeah, we're not the first ones anymore. So our retail is scaling and growing very, very quickly right now. So I think right now our composition is probably 70% D2C, 30% kind of, retail. That's probably going to change pretty quickly. And then in terms of our actual D2C, we probably, we started out doing probably 50-50 out of the gate on Amazon and our site because we want it to be available on both. I think a big reason why you absolutely want to sell on your site and Amazon is your site, you can capture all the data about who your customer is. Amazon, I think most people know, is the black box. You have no idea who your customers are there. You get no data. So we started off 50-50. And at this point now, we do 4x more on our site than Amazon every day. So site is definitely the bulk of where most of our D2C is going now. And I think it all depends on what your product is too. I think it's something we talked about earlier was like, we're a product that is a premium product. It's very lifestyle focused. Like we want to make people laugh. And that's like our strategy. If we can make you laugh, you might give us your $1.69 instead of Aquafina or somebody else. And it's like Amazon is not a platform that is fit for marketing and fun. It's like a price-driven platform. Like that's all they care about. That's how you show up in results. So it makes sense for us that like we're going to be way more effective selling stuff on our site where we can curate this whole fun experience versus just this very bland Amazon kind of experience.
Yeah. So, and Mike, I want to keep you talking about this because obviously where you first started talking about was finding your audience. Finding your audience, there's a huge component to that related to data. One of the questions that someone brought up out of the Q&A here was related about to data points are you collecting from your consumers online and how do you use that data to influence your strategy? Because you mentioned obviously with Amazon, it's kind of a black box, black hole of
yeah.
How have you used that saying, this is who I'm reaching, I'm going after the Metallica people, here's who, from a marketing centric approach, here's who I'm reaching. And then ultimately, how are you using that data to make adjustments as you go on?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a combination of experimenting. So like, I think that, we built a culture at Liquid Death that's really about testing everything and almost pretending like you have no idea what's going to work or not work, whether that's marketing or whether that's kind of like who your customer is. Like, I guarantee you, if Liquid Death, before it launched and I showed you the can, and you took the smartest marketing person or data person and said, who's going to buy this? And I said, moms are going to love this. There's nobody that would agree with me.
Right.
But we are starting to see, like on social, there's more moms posting Liquid Death faster than anybody else. And it's like, there's some kind of psychological thing there that's maybe like, hey, I want to partake in this fun thing. And it doesn't matter that I created the brand purely to make Slayer laugh. there's some kind of thing that is appealing there where you would never think to make a Slayer thing to appeal to that customer, right? So I think there's all these things that we just try to learn. So it's like, hey, let's try testing, pushing a Liquid Death ad to this group. You know, like let's try to be wrong. That's something we'll do. Hey, who's the last person that would ever buy Liquid Death? Okay, let's find that group and throw ads to them and just see what happens. And you might find out, oh my God, the CACs that we're getting on this are twice as good as the heavy metal guys.
Right.
So I think we're just always testing data. And then, you know, the data that you get from your site isn't anything like earth shattering. I mean, you can kind of tell, hey, it's 70% male, 30% female. Hey, the age range is maybe somewhere around here. Like, you're not going to get anything that's like going to give you some magical unlock moment. So I think we sort of get a sense of like, hey, yes, it's mostly dudes who are buying this. So we know that we can target a little bit on that. But otherwise, like most of the data we're getting is from just experimenting by putting ads in front of different kinds of people and seeing how they perform and keeping an eye on social. Who actually is posting our product on social? What are they saying about it? How are they using it? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah. TJ, I would love to hear you weigh in on this as well from the data standpoint. How are you using it? And I also want to bridge a little bit too into some of the forecasting piece. I know there's some people who want to know, how do you plan ahead for some of this stuff? But let's start off with the data stuff we were talking about, targeting and shifting strategy, and then maybe you can segue into how you.
How long do we have? 3 hours? I'll start with the foundation. And the one thing I can recommend from years of consulting and obviously owning this business, don't poison your pixel, number one, and make sure everything's properly placed. So when you set up a site, if you haven't done that yet, get Google Analytics involved, enhance e-commerce attribution, make sure all of your data sets are sitting there and robust. Reid and I can go off on a tangent for probably, again, 3 hours on this of server-side pixels versus third-party, first-party pixels and what's happening with browsers in this environment. But I would say hit Reid and his team up, and they'll send you in the right direction and probably set it up for you and get you going. Great company. All that being said, set your foundation straight. Get your Facebook pixels, your Snapchat, your Instagram, everything else placed on the site. If you're using Pinterest, do that. Make sure every platform you're using has the most amount of data that you can get, whether it's clicks through on certain triggers that you want, whether it's a lead gen, whether it's an add to cart button, initiate checkout button, whatever it is on the DTC side. Make sure you're tracking all of those, because you can make way more actionable data, unfortunately, than just gender and affinity networks. We can dig in through Facebook attribution and Google attribution and say, okay, from first person purchase to second purchase, how long is it? So I know when I need to hit my email funnels to go down and say, okay, in 28 days, I need to hit most people because that's general second purchase. Or how many touch points does it take to get a cold consumer to bite? And Mike, I mean, this is probably great for you. Through Facebook's attribution panel, you can say, hey, I've hit these people 9 times, and that's the average before they convert. So I get 9 impressions to a conversion. Or I'm using paid more than anything else. So just make sure your tracking's right and really own the data on that level. Obviously, you can do surveys and everything else on the back end, which is great. Really know your customer. But just from a pixel placement, that's my foundational recommendation, is like, get pixels right, and you've got half the battle worked out already.
Absolutely. Got it. Let's say bad data equals bad robots. It's dumb robots. That's what it is. The more you use bad information, you're not going to have very good results from all of that. And we're so information dependent for how we invest and invest wisely. So David, I'll go over to you now in terms of talking about making some of those investments. Obviously, the one that you're talking about now is making that shift into Amazon. Also, there's been a few questions here related to like cold storage and some of the shipping costs and some of that stuff. I don't know if you've had a chance to see any of those, but you've got the charging shipping. I mean, this is getting into pretty tactical stuff here, but I think there are enough people asking these questions about how you deal with some of the cold storage and the costs associated with that. We've got people asking about hard time shipping and selling cost effectively because they have to keep things cool. David, I think you had some comments around cold storage, and I imagine TJ, you probably have some comments around some of the shipping cost things as well.
Yeah, I think it's, definitely makes things a lot harder and a lot harder to make them profitable as well. In our case, we can ship ambient, but we need to store cold. So, broadly what we found is in terms of third-party logistics providers, your options reduce significantly when you require cold storage. So as I say, like shipping out, we're kind of good. We can send it out sort of regular, couple of days. Although, we found our costs increasing in the winter when stuff started to freeze, which we didn't think about, and had to send it a bit faster. But yeah, I think it's a tricky one when you have to pack in a load of ice or whatever. A lot of your cost is going to be in the packaging and shipping, and so if you're having to ship refrigerated packs, it is really going to make your life hard in terms of making that profitable. I think what I probably would suggest is just start off making a profit, and then you can always pull the price down as you figure stuff out. It's amazing to me, how much of a premium people will pay through e-commerce, and you've got that kind of long tail, rather than, you're stuck in a store in a specific geography or part of town. You can market to the whole of the US. So there's generally always someone out there who wants, if you've got a unique product, generally always someone out there, an early adopter who will be willing to pay that premium to get their hands on it. So don't be scared about pricing your product up where you need to make money on it.
Got it. Anyone else have any experience with that, Mike, TJ? I mean, I think there was someone asking about they can't ship ambient. Obviously, there's a lot of questions about shipping, and then as it relates to obviously your costs, offering free shipping at what level. So maybe we can talk a little bit about pricing as it relates to delivery, storage, and logistics. Mike, you had some comments about that earlier as it related to not being able to beat Amazon. Do you have any other thoughts or input for, like I said, we've had a number of those questions, so anything we can give our audience, that would be great.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing. It's something we've been actually dealing with recently, and I have my own kind of opinion on it, but I think psychologically what I'm seeing is people separate the value of what you're charging for the product versus what the cost of delivering it to your front door is. And it's like, there's been this thing in e-commerce where free shipping has been a thing, but everyone knows there's no such thing as free shipping. You're just adding the cost of the shipping into the product and you're saying free shipping. And people have been used to that. But in other industries, like if you have a pizza delivered, everyone's seeing it's $5 for the delivery. Or if you're ordering Postmates or Uber Eats, you're always used to paying a delivery charge and you're fine with that. So I think part of what we've had to do is more separate out what the cost of our product is and that perceived cost to a customer, and knowing what the cost of shipping is. And maybe you're not calling it shipping, you call it front door delivery, like reminding people that like you actually have something that's being brought by hand to your front door, so you don't have to put pants on to go buy it. And I think when we explain that to people, it makes a lot more sense. Like we've had a couple people, hey, why do I have to pay, $4.97 for shipping? And we're super upfront. We said, hey, it actually costs us $11 to ship it to you, but we only charge you $4.97. They're like, oh, great, thanks. Like, it just takes a little education, and people will see that there is a value in getting something delivered to your door. Because I think when you start baking it into the price, now it's like $20 for a 12-pack of water. And then you have to explain, well, it costs money to ship it to you. And when you really break it down, it's like $1.80 per can, which is the same price as an Aquafina in 7-Eleven, but you're getting it hand delivered to your front door. And then they're like, oh yeah, that's not so bad, I get it. So I think it's just a little bit of a psychological kind of understanding of the two different parts of your product has a value, and then there's a value of like getting something delivered to your house.
Absolutely. David, TJ, anything else to add related to pricing as it relates to shipping? Everyone has their own complexities.
Yeah, we've been all over the map on it. I mean, one from cost savings on our end, making sure our 3PL is buttoned up, and in all honesty, like we throw a lot of weight into adding additional value to the consumer, because that's how you win over and over again. Is how much value are you providing to the end user without consistently just asking for a credit card. Like not everything needs to be transactional. So are we, doing 2-day shipping, which, is something we tried to button up for a long time and finally got to it about last October. Was we have basically on every product 2-day shipping anywhere in the country. We're trying to match Amazon Prime, and we have really good rates with UPS to do that. And there are 3PLs that bundle that up, and they're able to make that happen. So as long as we're providing value to the consumer, call it surprise and delight, under promise over deliver type stuff, like we're usually good on that end, and we don't get too many complaints. But in terms of the pricing, we've done both. We've done complete free shipping triggers across the board, and you'll see your conversion rate boost 1% or 2%, and it'll have an effect. But at the end of the day, you are going to have to sell a certain threshold more, and depending on what your rates are and your costs are in-house, there's going to be a gap that you're going to have to cover in terms of the additional amount of sales before you, break even on free shipping, so to speak, and have those additional products come through. So it just really depends. It's a lot of Excel work and kind of figuring it out. But yeah, I mean, the best thing is like find a really, really good 3PL partner, and cross your fingers on that one. And you're going to get complaints on free shipping. You're going to get complaints if it's $4.97. You're going to get complaints if it's $11.90. It doesn't matter. There's going to be free shipping complaints because Amazon ruins it all.
David, anything else to add on this one?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. When we were looking at it, we looked at a lot of brands across the board to see like what's the best practice here, and we found everyone's doing it differently. So where we landed is we actually started offering free shipping, sort of mid-March, and it performed really well for us. So we just kind of kept that as, we sort of educated our consumers that you always get, as Mike says, free shipping, sort of baked into your cost somewhere. It's just how you package up your offering for consumers. So, we've said, okay, we're going to price at a certain level that allows us to sort of bake that cost of shipping in and average it out. A big thing for us in our social mission is access to, nutritional diversity, fiber, more nutritious foods. So, we don't want to penalize people living in rural areas where the shipping might be expensive. And so we've kind of like averaged that out and taken that cost on ourselves. There is some risk to that, obviously, because, you're taking a guess at what the shipping is going to be. But, to offset that, we don't do a ton of discounting on our product, so the gross margin kind of blends out. So I think it's really just kind of, where you want to set your stall out in terms of what value offering pushing. If you're doing free shipping, you're going to struggle to do a ton of discount on top of that. So just kind of like, you experiment with it or pick your lane, but you probably can't, do everything.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone can do particularly at the sizes we're all talking about, and trying a lot of startups and stuff that we're talking to you here, trying to do everything all at once is not the winning strategy. But so to kind of segue over to another major cost center is obviously advertising. I think a lot of people are wanting to know how to spend their ad dollars, what are the platforms they should be using. And that's one, Mike, I want to talk to you about this one first, because obviously such a big part of this is the kind of social movement and the branding and the stuff that you've done there in terms of targeting your audiences. And I know you've had a ton of success via social, but that's probably not everything that you're doing. So can you talk a little bit about how you're investing your ad dollars, and then so what platforms you see are working well for you and your unique circumstance and brand, and then how are you making those adjustments as you go forward?
Yeah, I mean, what we do is a little bit different than what a lot of other companies do. And it's largely because, me as a founder, like I come from a creative advertising background. So the ability, like the power of creative that we have in-house is probably a lot different than most other brands. So we really have a huge earned media strategy. It's like we look at any idea that we make, we put through the filter of, will this actually get shared by everybody? Like, so we rarely ever put out an ad that's just an ad for an ad. Like, even if we're doing paid ads, we want this paid ad to be something that somebody has to share with somebody else. So, because I think we kind of know that, like, if we all have to pay for every eyeball that we get, you cannot compete with the big guys. Like, you're just never going to get that awareness as fast as you need it to do, because I think most of us know in the startup world, cash runway is limited and you've got to grow quickly, even if, you know, it's maybe the best thing to do is grow slow and do that. It's like, yes, that's great in theory, but are you going to run out of money before you get to the next milestone? So earned media is a big thing that we're big on, where we're like, hey, we can spend $5,000 to shoot a video that we put only a couple grand behind in social, but now we're going to actually get $500,000 worth of eyeballs on it, because like it's this, not viral, but it's just a lot more shareable. So our strategy in terms of buying is like, we mostly buy social. You know, we do some experiential type things like sponsoring music festivals, which are gone now. But, you know, even that, like, there's live streaming things that we do. We find interesting ways to work with influencers or bands or athletes that, you know, aren't the typical, hey, we just pay you to post. Like, we figure out something fun, because if you can do something that feels valuable to the influencer, like, oh, wow, this is a really creative idea, the negotiation is way different. If they know it's going to help them in some way, it's not just the standard, oh yeah, pay me to post this. So I think that's kind of always how we're doing it. Like, we're trying to day trade attention in a sense. Like, how do we go find attention in the cheapest way possible that is still the audience that we want?
Yeah. What about you, David? With your strategy, how are you investing your ad dollars? What platforms are you using? And then how are you measuring to make sure you're getting the right return on investment?
Yeah, I think you know, as the opportunity to demo in stores and stuff, so we always try and get our, you know, small business, try and get our marketing budget as close to the point of purchase as possible. And, you know, our opportunity to demo and do stuff in stores sort of disappeared. So we flipped that budget into digital, and it's been, you know, a really efficient way to kind of, you know, to communicate to people. And you know, I think it's interesting that, you know, hearing Mike and TJ talk, like, you know, very different approaches and based on their skill set. And I think that's good advice as well around, you know, if you have a particular skill set, then lean into it, because you probably do that better and more efficiently than anything else. So it's okay if that kind of dictates your strategy as much as anything. The thing that surprised me as well, you know, we do this sort of simple Instagram and Facebook and measure your, you know, CAC and ROAS to make sure that we're investing enough, but not too much. But, you know, also all of your emails that go out, like we send a bi-weekly newsletter, and that drives a ton of sales for us. You know, thinking about all the other emails that go out in your funnel, you know, those are all marketing opportunities as well as the ad spend. So, you know, something as a kind of novice to it 3 months ago, I wouldn't really be thinking about that. And, you know, I've had my eyes opened up to it.
Absolutely. And then TJ, anything from your standpoint, where are you investing? What do you think are the things that are working best for you?
Yeah, we're quite diversified. I mean, predominantly Facebook, Instagram, Google. That's, I mean, where most people are watching cat videos and everything right now, considering they're stuck at home. So pulling them away from that seems to be a challenge, but also good. You know, the CPMs, and Reid and I, you can chat about this forever. The CPMs are a little bit lower after March 16th when we rode that wave, and they came up higher, cost per 1,000 views, for those of you that are unfamiliar with the digital ad space so far. But the cost to advertise lowered a lot after COVID. It raised a little bit, and we're starting to see it stabilize again, especially for our segment. But we test everything. You know, I'm kind of in Mike's case on that. It's not necessarily the creative and testing the creative. I mean, though we do, as much as it is like, what platform is going to hit? Where are people spending a lot of money? Where's low competition at? So we're kind of across the board between Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, you know, Pinterest, Twitter, Google. We're all over the map, but the majority of it still hits Facebook, Instagram. It's the easiest traceability. And honestly, it's like the most actionable data set you're going to get back out of any ad platform. It's almost better than Google Analytics. So we're leveraged there pretty good.
Yeah. And there was one question I figured I'd just keep you on while you're on here, Brown, because you're on Shopify. Any Shopify apps that you recommend right off the top of your head?
Yeah, I got a billion of them, but right out of the gate, full disclosure, I sit on the board of advisors for this company. It's an AI company called Pinpoint. Pinpoint.ai gives you incredible actionable intelligence on your existing consumer data set. So one of the things they do, if you've watched the Cambridge Analytica documentary on how Trump won the election, it basically takes that technology and tags every single one of your customers against an ocean metric. So openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, which is the psychographic data, not demographic data. And it allows people like Mike and copywriters to basically say, I need to serve Black, and I need it to say, you know, X, Y, and Z in the ad, whether it's unparalleled or whatever trigger words you have. So it almost guarantees you a home run right out of the gate for any ad set. And, you know, Reid, I'll introduce you to the CEO. He's super good.
Yeah.
It'll help you with all your internal ads too. It's incredible. So that's my number one right out of the gate, is like, if you have a decent amount of transactions on the store, a couple thousand, put in Pinpoint. They're doing free trials. It's amazing. Yeah.
Right on. That's a good one. Yeah. So, you know, I think the other one that a lot of people have been asking, and again, TJ, I'll keep you on this one for this, and then I'll move down the line, is this is the idea outsourcing. So one of the big questions that people have been voting up is, when's the right time to, whether it's, because I have a perspective, whether it's revenue or something like that, it probably depends. When's the right time to bring in an outsourced marketing team? And then some other people have asked around the IT or kind of that DevOps side of things. So
yeah.
you have a perspective on that, and I know I have a perspective on that, and I think all of us do. So why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and right out of the gate and say there's no right answer. Everybody is a unique snowflake. For us, you know, because I've done it for a long time, there was never a right time. For somebody whose strength is in grocery or strength is in product development or design or something like that, buy yourself time and buy yourself expertise, and get an agency that you can work with that's going to know your brand. One of the best things I've heard in kind of the past year is find an agency that you can work with shoulder to shoulder and almost sit in their office if you can, because the more they know your brand and the more they know your strengths in the business, the more they're going to be able to play off of that. Personally, I've used agencies in the past at other consulting companies and what have you, and I've had some really, really bad luck, and I've had some really great luck. And the ones that I have the great luck with are the ones that I can work shoulder to shoulder, get on a lot of calls, explain everything. You want a partnership in an agency. You definitely don't want kind of push messaging where it's like, hey, drop these 4 ads, talk to you in 3 weeks. Like that creates a really, really transactional relationship. And at the end of the day, it's not as successful as what it could be. But there's no right size. It just depends on your business.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, from a standpoint of being able to keep up with the pace and being able to learn fast, fail fast, remedy things. I mean, it's all about communication and then having the right experts and expertise in there. But if you can't, there is a right size in the sense, if you can't afford it, then you're going to have to roll up your sleeves and do it yourself. It has everything to do with whether or not you can afford the percentage improvements and the pace and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's from my standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So David, maybe you have a perspective on this as well. And then I know, Mike, we've talked a little bit about it earlier, so I'd love to hear yours. So David, why don't you go on your perspective? And also one other one to address was that IT and the DevOps one that people are had some questions about.
Yeah, I think as TJ is saying, it you know, it depends on you know, where your skill set lies. You know, and you don't want to be bringing people in to do stuff that, you know, you can do. You know, from our side, like, I don't really have a ton of experience in, you know, app buying and that type of thing, and the digital space was new, so having a partner there was great. But, you know, I'm a brand marketer by trade, so wanted to kind of keep hold of the creative, you know, and do that a little bit more in-house. So I think what's great now is you can kind of piece this stuff together a bit. But, you know, if you do outsource, and that's totally fine as well, just depending on where you feel comfortable. And, you know, if you're a finance person or sales, whatever, you know, you might need that more support. But I think, you know, all entrepreneurs tend to be pretty good marketers, because you kind of like seen an opportunity and you understand a consumer to go after something. So I think don't be scared about, you know, as TJ is saying, like, get in there with the agency and sort of really help them to understand your brand and your vision, and then they can help you translate that if that's the path you go.
Excellent. And then Mike, why don't you talk about it too? Because obviously, you know, marketing and then in the DevOps component, if you can.
Sure. So I think I have a point of view, and you know, it's worked for me, and I've seen it work with other agencies, but I feel like startups should work with the right agency as soon as possible, even in the product development stages, because if the name isn't like a killer name for your product can do so much work for you and save you so many marketing dollars. If it's compelling enough that you can actually run an ad of just your product and that's going to be interesting enough for someone to stop on it. Usually the way products are created that I've seen, the product itself is fairly interesting. It kind of fits in its category. Then you've got to spend a bunch of marketing dollars to make it interesting and build this whole story around the thing, because just on its own, it's just kind of like a lot of other things. So it's like if you can get an agency in early in the right kind, like someone, you know, you might want a 26-year-old copywriter telling you, hey, what if you call your organic juice Juicy McJuicerson? Like you would never think of that. And it's like, that might be a home run for your particular brand. It's going to save you tons of money, potentially. And it's like, if you can just set up some kind of working relationship in the beginning, that's not a retainer or something, or you can work out, hey, we're a startup. What will you charge us to do just like an introductory branding and messaging process for us? Like, hey, what do we think is a really interesting thing about your brand? How do we think would be the most compelling way to talk about it to consumers? If you just get that foundation and get kind of pointed in the right direction, it might make running it yourself or kind of piecemealing things a lot easier after that. Versus if you spend too much time taking a brand maybe the wrong way, and then finally it gets big enough where you can afford an agency who then says, you know what, you kind of should have gone this way to really get to the next level. So I think, you know, obviously it depends on what your cash is, but I really can't emphasize getting a different creative kind of cultural thinking point of view on your product as early as possible.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, I mean, it's that objectivity, right? Someone who's going to look at it from a different perspective and seeing it a different way. And I think that speaks a little bit to, you know, some of the stuff what you were saying, David, as it relates to, you know, kind of what your domain of expertise is, and maybe finding some of those people who can balance that. But it does have to come back to the affordability and what you can and can't do yourself, and what your bias or maybe some of those blind spots may be. So. Now, going into the situation of the moment, you know, with COVID and everything like that, I think there are some questions related to plans for physical retail and what we're trying to. So, I want to try to do a little bit of heavier lifting than just to talk about what do we think the future is going to look like. But what are your future plans for retail, physical retail, whether it's maybe direct to consumer or in store with other retailers? But also, I would also love to hear a little bit about your perspective of what are you dealing with right now as it relates to that? Because I know this is, you know, trying to do these conversations with Whole Foods over Zoom or something is a challenge at the moment as well. So really, David, I think I'll maybe start off with you, change it up a little bit in terms of the pacing, because I'm doing it off of my screen to a degree of who's left to right. So David, you're right in the middle for me. What are your plans for physical retail? How do you see you adapting over the next however many months to what you think the future looks like?
Yeah, I mean, retail has always been the major channel for us, and we're, you know, continuing headlong into that. We, you know, I've just launched nationally in Sprouts. We're about to go into another 4 divisions of Whole Foods in August. Fresh Market will be launching in June. We just signed a deal with Rainforest in New York to kind of expand the distribution there. So that kind of continues for us, you know, as per the plan, to be honest. We just now have this additional tool of e-commerce that we didn't really expect was going to be as big as it is. And, you know, we're finding that where we go with retail, our e-commerce sales increase. Like most of our e-commerce sales come from California right now, where we have most of our sales. And, you know, it's a great platform to kind of like, while those in-store opportunities shut down somewhat. You know, I think Leah from our team just kind of posted a case study on LinkedIn that she did for Wegmans, you know, how we activated that store without actually being in the store through, you know, social media, influencers and collaborations. And, you know, we're getting, you know, I'd say, you know, up to 300 to 500 signups, you know, for by week for our newsletter, so we can kind of geo-target when we launch in new retailers. So yeah, the e-com really helps support that, and we're not slowing down on the retail side either.
Awesome. TJ, your perspective on retail, the future of physical retail, and what you're doing now to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm looking at it from an e-commerce space in terms of platforms and process and what have you for those internal companies. I think what you're going to see is a lot of shifting in terms of technology to inventory management, POS management, curbside pickup, all of these really weird things. Like retail's a laggard in large, doesn't matter what vertical you're in. So having them play catch up on technology and taking a 2020 technology and closing that 2030 gap is basically what COVID has done. We pushed about 10 years ahead, which is really nice. But you're going to see a lot more curbside pickup, a lot more Amazon Prime Now delivery, that type of stuff from a lot of smaller retails. I don't think it's a bad idea to concentrate on retail. It diversifies, it's good shelf space, it's good eyes on the product, it solidifies your brand, same way Amazon would. So if you're going direct to consumer and you haven't launched Amazon, it's good to launch Amazon because people search that and look for validation and look for reviews, et cetera, et cetera. Pay attention to retail. We're going to 100%. That's going to be our heavy push for late 2020 and on the future, and try to slim down the Amazon DTC space and let, retail possibly take over 20-30% of the business and diversify a little bit more. But it's an important space, and pay attention to the ones that are putting a lot of effort into technology. Obviously the Whole Foods Amazon thing is, kind of gold standard right now, unfortunately, because you have the biggest tech company running one of the biggest grocery companies. But if you see anybody else, local retailers, that type of stuff, push hard in it, partner with them, because it's a smart move.
Yeah, I'd be curious actually for anybody too, Mike. I would still want you to answer this question, but that just brings the point of have we seen since Amazon has taken over Whole Foods and seeing the integration happen, I think at a consumer level more and more. I mean, what has changed in the last year? Does anything stand out for any of you guys related to Amazon's relationship with Whole Foods?
So has anybody been to the Prime stores by like the Day One building where you can just walk in and grab something off the shelf and take it off, like the Amazon?
It's like a field trip. I had to go.
Yeah, they're bananas. It's mindless. So you like literally walk in, scan your little RFID or your QR code on your phone as you walk in. Leave your phone in your pocket. You can have a backpack on and you just throw stuff in the backpack. And the second you walk out the store, it charges you like you checked out. It's amazing. I see retail going to that. And then I also see a good friend of mine made a point, like AR is going to get into the forefront now, again, closing the gap of what 2030 could be. But I think what you're going to end up seeing is a lot of augmented reality shopping right out of the gate, and having instant delivery to the house where you can go through and point at the things you want through your screen, grab that, put it in your cart, and then it just comes to your house afterwards. So I think there's going to be a lot of cool technology that's coming out on the Amazon Whole Foods front that's going to dictate other things for smaller retailers, for the the Sprouts of the world or what have you, to play catch up and actually create a robust floor set for buying when you don't actually have time to go to the store.
Yeah, and I say this because I see that as a relevant conversation to direct to consumer, because ultimately I think Amazon is starting to see what you're doing as direct to consumer as competition. It's the combination of Google plus Shopify versus Amazon. As a full marketplace. So, I'm curious on the brand side, how things are changing and what they're.
Have you played with the Shopify app?
Yeah.
Their branded app. Do you see the data they're gathering on the back end?
Yeah. I mean, I have
it aggregates every purchase component you've had from Amazon, from Google, from any retailer online, even if they're a Shopify store or not. Shopify will be the next one to bring and compete with Amazon for sure, because they're aggregating all your data already.
Yeah. It's awesome. Mike, I'm going to come back over to you. Your kind of conversation, or what we were just talking about, the future of retail, particularly as it relates to liquid death.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all depends on what the product is. It's like there's certain things that are always going to make more sense or be attractive for someone to buy in a convenience store or a grocery store. Like, I don't know, like if you're selling a protein powder supplement in a giant tub that you can charge $60 for, there's no reason why you shouldn't just order that on the internet. Like, it just comes to your house. You don't buy it every single day or every single week. You know, it makes sense from a profit margin for the producer because they can actually make a great margin selling and shipping something at that price. But if you're selling something like water that's cheap and heavy, it's almost never going to make sense fully to just be a D2C product. And especially if it's something that people want all the time, or is like more of an impulse buy, like, hey, I'm thirsty right now, I need to go buy a water. You don't want to just have to wait and order something on the internet or only have it at your house. So I think it all is going to depend on what the products are. There'll be certain products that just survive and that people are constantly buying in stores, and there'll be things that people just stop buying in stores and only order online. And I think it'll just start to shape what kind of products you see in retail. And then, yes, to TJ's point, all the technology that's just inevitably going to come to make things easier because people just want to do less always. So if you don't have to wait in line, you know, taking all the parts that you don't look forward to going to a grocery store, if you can start taking those out, those are inevitably, I think, going to just come. But yeah, I think it all works together in terms of when somebody needs a particular thing. And it's like, online is going to fulfill that for a certain amount of things, and retail is always going to fulfill that for a certain amount of things. And I think one interesting thing that, it sounds stupid and trivial, but like, how many people are so sick of cardboard boxes? Like, I swear to God, there's like 50 Amazon boxes in my garage that I can't put out with the trash because you have to like call. It's like, at some point, the excess packaging, I feel like, of only doing D2C stuff is gonna have some effect on something. I don't know how, but I feel like it's gonna have some effect. Like, people are either tired of it, they don't want to deal with it, or these companies are gonna have to find a different way to get stuff to people's houses.
Yeah. Well, Matt's coming on to wrap us up here. So I know that means we're pretty close here to the end. So I'm going to ask one final question, and then I'm going to, as it goes on my screen, Matt gets to send us all home and into our day. So I'm going to ask a question, and Mike, since you were the first, or since you were most recently talking, I'll stop with this, is going to be effectively two questions in one, which is, what do you think, we're going to talk about top of funnel, bottom of funnel, what do you think your best, most either emerging or best go-to tactic from an awareness standpoint is going to be, and then what from a loyalty standpoint, maybe any tips or things to keep people in the loop as you move them through the funnel. And we'll go through, and then I'll let Matt wrap us up.
Yeah, I think from an awareness standpoint, and it's a really hard thing to do, but it's the way that we look at it, is you have to create marketing that has value of some kind, whether that's like humor value, like you have to make somebody laugh. It's like, we look at it like entertainment, you know, like we hold all of our advertising to the same standard of, if you were getting paid by a television network to create an actual show that they can make money off of, where you would hold the level of where that content has to be, like that's what we do for our marketing. And I think that is going to give you the best awareness possible, because entertainment is going to get shared, and you're going to get all this natural spread of something, which is going to give you awareness. So yeah, I think that's really our big kind of focus on how we spread awareness, like widely and quickly. And what was the second part of your question?
The loyalty part. So on the bottom of the funnel, how you keep people in the loyalty loop.
So I think it's tied to that too. It's like, if you can constantly feel like, as a brand, you're giving something to someone of value, they're gonna be loyal to you. And I think it goes beyond your product. Like, I think that's the biggest thing I could give people, is like, your liquid or your powder or your whatever is not that different from your competitor. And in the consumer's mind, it's not actually that different either. But it's like, if you're giving someone emotional reason to say, I want to invest in this company more than I want to invest in this company, because I feel like I like the people that run this company better, and I'd rather give them my money. I think that is hugely important to loyalty, and why someone wants to even subscribe to your email list. It's like, you better have something interesting when there's an email list like this of 20 other companies trying to email them. Why are they going to care about your email that comes through every day? Like, it's got to have something unique or different than all the other emails. Otherwise, they're just not going to care.
Cool. David, how are you keeping people, or yeah, David, how are you keeping people, bringing them in and then keeping them loyal?
Yeah, I think one of the things that is really important is to, particularly if you have a unique product, is just to kind of to really clearly lay out your concept and what it is, and then you find out pretty quick if you've got something interesting or not. So, one of our kind of proposition is, look, we give you the soda experience, but we take out the sugar and put in function. So, we've kind of created ads that are sort of just like a refreshing image of the product with some labels on saying like prebiotics, supports digestive health, 2 grams of sugar. They perform really well because it educates people super quick on what it is. So I think that's a great starting place. So particularly if you do have a unique product, just kind of be clear on what the proposition is, and then people can decide if they buy into it. For retention, I think, we're putting a lot of focus on customer service. We used to interact with people in the stores and sort of tell them about, digestive health and why this product is great. And now we're doing that online. And so we're kind of building out a kind of customer service team. I think it's, interesting. It's going to evolve quite a lot. I think the way that people approach customer service, we're starting to even divide it by, the way that you respond on social media is quite different to how you would respond to query about, a late package or something. But, if you want to retain people, I think that's key, because it's a really quick way to piss people off, and that's like, send them stuff late and don't tell them about it or communicate. And yeah, through social, there's really awesome opportunities for conversation and have a bit of fun as well, and sort of pull people into your brand.
TJ, your last comments.
For sure. Top of funnel, like, we just consider a couple things. It takes 8 to 26 touch points to convert a cold customer. Like, what is that first touch point, that intro touch point to the brand? And I think Mike nailed it. And I love being on this panel with everybody, because nobody has their hand out in terms of transactions of just like, let me send an email and get a credit card. Let me send an email and get a credit card. Those days of e-com 2005 are done and over with. People see through the bullshit for the most part. So add value, continually add value without asking for anything. And that's always gold standard. What is your touch point? Whether it's humor, whether it's, health data, or something about, having a healthier lifestyle, working out, whatever, recipes, there's always something that you can add to somebody that doesn't cost you a lot, that becomes an asset in your marketing going forward, where it's not just to use once and let it go. You can use a recipe book as a gift for an abandoned cart, and you don't have to chase them out into the, an hour, 2 hours later and say, hey, you forgot your cart, what have you. You can just give them a gift. You can use that in a lead magnet on Facebook. So you can have these assets and generate these assets on top of funnel, which are always living and breathing, which is good. And then in terms of bottom of funnel, just general retention is just keeping people happy. Besides the 26 touch points to convert cold, 87% of marketing, I think it is word of mouth. Like, it's not paid. It's all word of mouth. I know that everybody here, if I'm looking at you in your house and everything like that, I trust everybody. I know that, certain components of what I'm seeing in the background are resonating in my head and trusted. And if you can hit those touch points with your core audience and let them do the marketing for you, you're going to see a lift. I guarantee it. If you're making somebody happy, you're going to see a lift. It's not going to be a unicorn lift overnight where you're hitting, 20 million a month and you guys are retiring, but you will see that incremental growth. And that's, one of the best things I could say is just continually try to keep people happy, whatever it is.
Awesome. Thanks, TJ. Matt, it's all yours. Bring us home.
I wanted to chime in so many times, guys. Thank you. I was laughing, Googling and learning the whole time. And we even had a pre-session on this too. So this could have went on for 2 hours and I would have been engaged. It's a true compliment to everybody that is on this panel, and Reid, fantastic job. Everybody has Zoom fatigue, and it's a real thing. And we had pretty much everybody stay on until the end, and still people on. So compliment to you guys and the brands you've built. Anybody that's still on, I encourage you to go and look at these brands on social and engage with them. Go to their sites, buy their products, experience how they're delivered and the tone and the message of how they interact with the customers. these guys are doing a great job, and couldn't thank you guys more for doing this. It's a real pleasure for me, and I hope we're giving some value to the community. We'll be sending an email out to everybody. We love any feedback. And once again, just a big round of applause to the panelists here, and Reid. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Reid. Appreciate
All right,
it.
guys. Be good.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.